876 Stream. Bless up.
Only 6 unbeaten teams left at the greatest show on earth. The Dutch, the English, the Americans, the Moroccans, the Croatians, and Brazil. All of this and more in this, now streaming Qatar.
876 Stream. Bless up.
So on June 14, 2002, it was a day that South Korean fans will never forget in their history, as they qualified for the round of 16 of the greatest show on earth. A man by the name of Park Ji-sung, or to many Ji-sung Park, scored a win as they defeated Portugal. Advanced 20 years from that, and Hwang Hee-chan, yes, the man from Wolverhampton Wanderers, scored the very, very important goal as South Korea are through to the last 16 of the greatest show on earth. 20 years apart, and South Korea again getting a surprise victory over the navigators of Portugal. Hello everyone and welcome back to 876 Stream JA. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe as well. Also on Instagram 876 Stream and on Twitter Stream 876. 6 unbeaten teams left within the competition, 2 more group stage matches left in the greatest show on earth, and then it's the round of 16 where teams start to drop out like flies. 18 teams left within the tournament, still another place up for grabs in terms of a round of 16 spot. Will it be the Swiss, the Serbians, or even the Cameroonians, the indomitable lions of Africa? Well, they're Africa's last chance to get 3 teams into the last 16 of the major showpiece. Never, ever, ever in the history of this tournament has 3 African teams been to the last 16 of the tournament. Morocco, they're through, and so are Senegal. Cameroon are Africa's last chance to get 3 teams in that stage. Will they? Well, a tough task is ahead of them. To break this fixture down, amongst many, many other things, we have a very, very esteemed panel joining us. As you can see, we have a regular to our far right, Stefan Hausen, and I'm very, very delighted that we have a very, very special guest joining me to immediate right, former national youth coach and now technical director of Kingston College, Andrew Edwards. Gentlemen, how are you doing? Hope Paul as well.
Good.
Good afternoon, Simon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, it's really good, and thank you for having me.
It's
looking forward to an exciting show, and of course the game afterwards.
Absolutely. Coach, you know, a question we always ask our guests is their first World Cup memory. What was it for you, your first memory of the greatest show on earth?
Wow. Quite honestly, I'm not 100% sure, but I remember as a child growing up, after the 1982 World Cup, there was a lot of talk about the Brazilian team. I didn't get to see much of those games. So my first World Cup where I watched games was actually 1986, right? And of course, I guess it's just the community thing. You log on to the Brazil thing, and then of course I am one of those persons who are attracted to sexy things. Brazilian football is very sexy, you know. So I've stuck with it. I do enjoy Brazilian football. You know, Joga Bonito. You know, or samba, and you know, I follow them all the times. If you go onto my football app on the phone, you see that there are 2 teams that I follow there: Arsenal and Brazil. Okay. And so, when they don't do well, I mourn like a real Brazilian would. You know? But of course, they have played Jamaica a couple of times, and on all of those occasions, I've always rooted for the Reggae Boys to get the victory, as I will for the girls come the next World Cup again.
Yes. Right, wonderful memory indeed. And welcome back to the island as well. We know we had some time in the Turks and Caicos Islands. How was it there, and also being with the team that you had, Shavar Thomas, Aaron Lawrence and company over in the Turks and Caicos Islands?
No, I mean, that was a wonderful 3 years, great for my personal growth and development. You know, very proud of the fact that I broke through some barriers as it relates to becoming technical director in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and even more so the kind of impact that I would have had over there over those 3 years. You know, even now in these moments, I still do get calls sometimes. People, you know, pretty much saying thank you or to recognize, you know, and I'm talking about including the president herself, Miss Sonia Bain, you know, and the general secretary is a Jamaican, as you probably would know, Mr. Oliver Smith. We still keep in touch, especially the fact that he's a Fortis, and we talk about KCA sometimes, you know. But yes, it's been a good, it was a very good experience for me, and I look forward to being able to continue growing and developing in a way that I can continue to contribute to football development in Jamaica and the region.
Yeah, very, very nice. Stefan, Belgium out, the Germans and Uruguay as well. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to the Belgians specifically, Simon, I'm wearing a Toronto FC shirt right now in memory of Canada.
Yeah.
When we spoke at the start of the tournament, we said Canada versus Belgium. I said that Canada could cause an upset. So that just shows you how I ranked Belgium personally.
Right.
When people talk about surprises, I think of things that make my jaw drop. Belgium not qualifying did make my jaw drop because I was one of the few that said I didn't fancy this team. And, you know, it went the way I expected it to. Unfortunately, it didn't result in Canada going through, but, you know, I'll take that one.
Yeah. Coach, how are you enjoying the surprises that we're seeing so far and the upsets in this tournament?
Well, to start with, I think I'd like to say that Sepp Blatter should be a very, very happy and proud man wherever he is in the world right now watching this World Cup. Because for all the incidents of that we would not really necessarily want to talk about concerning FIFA, this was one of his biggest dreams, you know, to bring football to the world, as he would, in his own words.
Right.
And to see a Japan topping a group involving Spain and Germany, to see South Korea upstaging Portugal to get a place, to see Morocco finishing top of a group that contained Belgium, and, you know, it really warms the heart to think that the football is actually spreading out across the world. To see that the World Cup is being hosted in Qatar is a big deal. And for me personally, as I said before, I've been really following the World Cup since 1986, and I'm going out on a limb, very, very confidently, without fear or favor, to say this is easily the best World Cup ever. Not necessarily because of the quality of play, but just simply because of the closing of the gap between the so-called big powerhouses of the world and the so-called minors of the world. I think that even the upcoming game that we're looking at, Brazil, there's in years gone by, it would be a foregone conclusion that Brazil will go and win this game, or people would expect them to win the game. The evidence of the World Cup to date suggests that Brazil needs to be on all P's and Q's. You know, they need to be very alert, very aware, and be very prepared for a fight.
I asked Stefan this, coach, and I wanted your input on it as well. It's a November, December World Cup thereabouts, and usually in club football, this is when players would go into second gear or third gear. Is that adding to the surprises, you know, players being sharp and not rusty? Well, not rusty, but tired at the end of a long, hard season, June, July?
It's quite possible. I'm going to be very excited to look at the FIFA Technical Study Group report at the end of the World Cup. I know FIFA posting stuff on the website. I haven't actually started to dig into it just yet, but I'm going to be very excited and curious to see how those numbers and analysis match up to what has gone before us. Obviously, it is novel, it's new. We never had this before.
Right.
What it has shown us, though, is that there is some merit to doing it, certainly in terms of the balance that there is in terms of how teams have performed and the results that they have actually garnered, you know. But overall, I'd say that it's been a great watch for me personally so far.
Yeah, very, very nice. And Stefan, you're enjoying everything, the spills, the thrills, excitement?
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I bold statement, best World Cup ever. I've watched a few less than you, but I would say in my lifetime for sure. I think this World Cup has epitomized what it is to call it the beautiful game. There's
Absolutely.
I've said it to you off here, Simon. The last 3 World Cups, I felt like I went into them and I said, I know who's going to win. So I have to find enjoyment somewhere else. I went into this World Cup, I said, there's a few teams that could take it. And as the tournament has progressed, we've seen the upsets, we've seen the surprises, as some people call it. It's been a good show for sure. I feel like I go into every game hoping something happens, and then something else happens, and that just adds to the enjoyment for me.
Yeah, and folks, let me just let you guys know as well, it kind of mirrors what we've seen in previous tournaments as well. 2002, 20 years ago, we had France out in the group stages, Uruguay, Portugal, Argentina, Nigeria, Croatia, who were third back in 98, group stage exit 2002, were all out of the group stage. This World Cup, Mexico, who many would expect or hope would advance, Denmark, who many would expect advance as well, Germany, Belgium, and Uruguay as well. So the surprises, the shocks 20 years onwards still continue. Before we go into this Brazilian counter, coach, just wanted to know, locally, being back on the island, being back in your routine, how are things in terms of being at Kingston College? Are you settled, you would say, at this point in time? How are things behind the scenes and being in that role that you are TD right now?
Well, football for me is what I have accepted as my purpose in life, and so it takes very little to really get me moving once you're talking about football. The journey at Kingston College since July has been a mixed bag. A mixed bag full of more goodies than not so goodies. It's a different challenge, one that I'm really embracing and enjoying actually, because life is such that there's no growth in comfort, and if it was comfortable and easy, it would take away from that growth that is taking place. Right. That being said, there are challenges that we would rather not have to deal with. Right. But again, that's a part of the process, and we are getting through with that. I think this season has been a pretty decent one. Certainly a below par one in terms of what would have happened in seasons gone by, because the team is accustomed to getting to the championship games and at least at the under 16 and under 14 level to the semi-finals. Unfortunately, both of those two teams were eliminated just this week from at the quarterfinal stage. So it's not very good on that level, but there has been a lot of changes. Coach Ludlow Bernard would have stepped aside. Coach Raymond Watson, aka Stampy, in his first season in charge of the team, and of course also having to navigate and come to grips with having a technical director around and different members of staff as well. And then of course the player personnel is a pretty young group. I think is five of the players not having the age to return next season, compared to 19 that we lost the year before. We are now retaining upwards of 20 players this time around. And then when you look at the progression coming through from the under 16 and under 14 ranks, certainly KC will continue to be a major competitor in the years to come. And the major challenge now is to bring all of the resources that we have in terms of players, coaches, etc., to bear in a more positive way than it has already been.
Yeah. And for you, how encouraging is it to see when, players that you have coached and given opportunities to at under 17 level, the Peter Lee Vasses of this world, the Justin McMasters, Alex Marshalls, etc., Javane Browns, getting opportunities and progressing not only to the national team, but being professionals as well?
When I started my coaching journey back, I actually started coaching back in 96, but I like to say 2001 when I really dived into it seriously. I had just done a coaching course at Michael, and one of my pet peeves is after each course I write down some targets that I want to reach, or accomplishments that I want to get. And one of the accomplishments at that time was to coach players who would move on to represent the national team. Right. So when I was in Portland, we had a youngster by the name of Denroy Wilson. His name was later changed to Dennis, so call him Pal. He was the top goal scorer in schoolboy football for 2 seasons back to back, 2003, 2004. And he was invited to the national team. He wasn't selected. A lot of the players who were a part of that pool found it very surprising that as a leading marksman in the country, he was not able to hold on a place in that under 20 team.
Right.
But subsequently, we had a Dever Argill who became the first captain to lead Jamaica to a victory over the United States. And Dever was our leading goal scorer at Titchfield in 2006. And then we move on to states, and we had like a Deshaun Brown and so on. And we got into the national setup and we worked with a lot of players. So long and short of it, it is really fulfillment of a goal that was set out, and seeing that come to fruition is really beyond words in a real way, you know, especially when you get that occasional thank you and acknowledgement of, hey coach, really appreciate the little things that you did, you know.
Sure.
That part, you know, sometimes get you to a little teary place. Yeah, but it's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And outside of those who have gone on to play national, you know, we're very, very proud of the many that have gone on to college scholarships, and more importantly, those who have just become productive citizens in the society.
Yeah.
Because long and short of it, you know, we don't coach football players, we coach human beings. Young men and young women who have to take their place in society when their playing days are over. You know, and if there's one particular aspect of that I'm extremely happy about is the number of past players that are now coaching. Unfortunately, I can't pinpoint one that is coaching in the country right now, but I have a couple of them coaching in the United States. Wow. You know, Javid Wood, Dwayne Fidd, Tajay Higgins, you know, to name a few who are out there coaching and doing pretty well. From time to time, we have chats about what they're doing and how I can help, or they share little ideas, you know, how I might improve what I'm doing here as well. Yeah. So that part is extremely pleasing. And we're looking forward to seeing one or two of them actually on the ground in Jamaica pretty soon.
Yeah, we're going to get back to that, Coach. Just a reminder, folks, you know, Coach Andrew Edwards here is one of 3 Jamaicans who have coached a team to defeat the United States at any level. David Hunt, the first, back in 2007. After that, it was Theodore Tapper Whitmore in 2012. Coach Andrew Edwards, 2015, defeating the United States, a team that had Christian Pulisic and company part of that roster. Many players that are playing for the United States at this World Cup. Coach Andrew Edwards helped the Jamaicans to defeat the United States 1-0 that game. Nicholas Nelson on that score sheet there. Winfred Schaefer also got a victory as head coach for Jamaica. That was Gold Cup 2015. So Coach Edwards, one of 3 Jamaican-born coaches, one of 4 Jamaican coaches altogether to get a victory over the United States. So, Coach, was it a bit emotional when you saw Justin McMaster score an international debut for Jamaica in that recent game against Cameroon?
I wouldn't say emotional, but definitely pleasing. Because Justin is a really decent kid, you know. And he was a part of the very first team that I coached at the national level as head coach. And he's one of those players who had a strong work ethic, you know, really powerful work ethic. Yeah. Very bright young man. I remember when he left on scholarship to the United States. I wouldn't say I followed his progress very closely, but I was aware of what was happening with him. And when he got that call, it was really nice. And for him to go on and score, it was really good, you know. Yeah. If I might be allowed to feather my own cap a bit here, you know. I just like to put on record, though, that that team in 2015 was actually the first Jamaican team to have a victory against the US States outside of Jamaica. So prior to that, all the victories actually took place inside of Jamaica.
Yes, that is correct, Coach. Yes, that's right. The one in 2007 at the National Stadium, Coach Whitmore's own, 2012 at the National Stadium, and Coach Edwards' own was in Honduras. Tough conditions, and as Coach would say, you know, the circumstances after losing to Honduras that opening game, and to come back in that manner as well, certainly showed great strength of the team as a whole.
That was hurt you.
But you know, in truth and in fact, every so often I reflect on this, and you know, Facebook have a very cruel and sometimes nice way of reminding you about things. And every March it comes back up, you know, and you see it, and then for me though, the game against Honduras is not where we failed to qualify, quite honestly.
Right.
It's the game against Cuba that
Yeah.
we I mean, for all intents and purposes, we should have won that game. It was planned and detailed down to the last everything for us to actually get that victory. And why it was even more disappointing, I think, is the fact that we had actually beaten Cuba twice coming into that game.
Yeah.
But that's how football is.
Yeah, for
and,
sure.
we learn from it and we grow. Hopefully, I'll be around, not necessarily as a coach, but at least in some kind of contributory way, whether it is a Genesis player, a KC player, or some other player who's a part of the next team to qualify for a Youth World Cup.
Yeah.
I think we should always be qualified for Youth World Cup.
I agree with you there.
That's something I would hope that my life will be extended long enough for me to see that becoming almost like a given. Where you have a Youth World Cup and Jamaica is going to be one of the representatives.
Yeah, and Stefan, your thoughts as well about what coach was saying, because in recent times coaches feel that an under-17 World Cup, if Jamaica were to host it, we can compete at that age group level in under-17 in particular, in terms of the raw talent that is there, size, strength, the capabilities at that age group level.
I mean, I follow youth football very heavily. I think the talent is there. I think it's just putting it into practice, making the right steps in the right direction to make it, as coach said, something that is almost a given. I think we've wasted a lot of opportunities in the past in regards to tournaments that we should have qualified for. Maybe we've been unlucky in some of them as well. But I think moving forward, it's just about taking the right steps, planning it properly, and it will become what it should be.
Absolutely. Let's take some of the comments that we have as well in the chat. Lemma says, love that there's no growth in comfort. Claudia Preston says, welcome Andrew Edwards, good to see you. Great job, coach. Keep the success going. You're a true professional. Roger Robinson says, up top, Coach Edwards, Genesis Football Academy. And Stefan, a question in the chat is asking, as someone with a lot of experience in schoolboy football in Jamaica, do you believe the standard of football in schoolboy has risen on the island, that is?
100% I think it has. Certainly in terms of the tactical deployment of the teams, you can see clearly that coaches are learning and they are preparing their teams better. And so there is still a big gap, between teams that are putting in work, teams that are investing in the development of their players, their programs, etc. But when you get to the quarterfinals, both competitions, Manning and Da Costa Cup, the teams are generally on or about par, and that is a clear indication of development in our coaching. Just before we came on here, that was one of the conversations we were having. That's the area that I think can have the greatest impact. And it's not Andrew Edwards' idea. So I'm not smarter than anybody else when it comes to that, for sure. But that is what the evidence has shown us across the world, right? And we talk about this particular World Cup. Let us zoom in a little bit on Africa, for example. 5 African nations, all 5 coached by homegrown coaches.
Right. Born in that country.
Born in that country, right? They would have played professionally outside of their countries for sure. And I know they would have also gotten their training outside, some of their coach education outside of their countries. Right? But that's another point. Why do we believe that all of our coach education must take place inside of Jamaica? Right? And coach education should not be limited to just courses, course attendance and course certification. But say, for example, as we were discussing earlier, sending a youth coach to a tournament, a Youth World Cup or a Gautier Cup or Texas Cup or whatever the different cup, Nike Cup, whatever, is an endless amount of education that will take place in an environment like that. Then you also talk about, for example, is it possible to send a Stefan to Saprissa in Costa Rica for a month,
Right.
where he can understudy what is happening here, be in the change room, be at the training venue every day, going to match, see how the match preparation, all of that comes together to make coach education sweet and nice. You understand what I'm saying? And I, in my own mind, I would like to see where our coaches are not learning only from Brazil or Germany or France, but from as many different places as possible, so that when we come back, as our motto says, out of many one people, we have out of many ideas one Jamaican idea, if you get what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, it's like an agglomeration of ideas or philosophies or concepts that we can bring together to bear on what we have as a natural resource in terms of our athleticism, our physical prowess, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely a point to consider. Stefan, coach was just making a point about, going to a game or tournaments and so on. Coach Halgrimson is there in Qatar, so he can only enhance and prepare for what is to come, Gold Cup and qualifiers, etc.
Yeah, I think it's. I know there was some pushback to the news that he was sent over there, and I don't understand why. Why would you not want your coach to go and watch up close and personal what is happening there? I don't think I think a lot of people don't realize the fact that watching it on TV and watching it in person is two different things. When I was in Toronto FC, I used to watch MLS on TV and criticize it from a point of ignorance. I went and watched these games up close, and my eyes were open. I was like, wow, these guys are real footballers. Like this is a level of football I've never seen before.
Right.
And which all it says there's probably higher levels in Premier League. I can't even imagine what it would be like. If I'm being wowed by MLS, imagine Premier League, Champions League, etc.
Right.
There's nothing better than going and seeing it up close. That's a learning experience for any coach. No matter your stage in life, youth coach, senior management coach, there's always a learning experience out there.
But to complement what you're saying, Stefan, there's a big thing that happens in environments like that you don't get from watching a television,
For sure.
which is networking.
Yeah.
Right? Networking, building relationships, establishing possible actions that you want to include in your plan. So, coach is there, he's going to be meeting and greeting with all of these coaches. He's probably now getting opportunities to establish practice games, training camps, exchanges.
Yeah.
You never know. The opportunities are endless.
For sure.
You understand? And then, of course, as you say, when you're watching the game in the stadium, it is a total different thing from watching it on TV.
Oh, 100%.
You know, I watched
Bundesliga.
I've watched the Bundesliga.
Yeah.
I've watched Bundesliga 2. I've watched Serie A in Brazil. I watched Sao Paulo when Neymar was playing, not Sao Paulo, Santos. When Neymar was at Santos.
Oh.
Yeah, I watched them play against, I think it's Gremio. Yeah, at the time, Zé Roberto and another
Former
Brazilian that won the World Cup in 2002 was playing for Gremio. Right? And it was a nice experience. I tell you, it was nice. Gremio was coached by Vanderlei Luxemburger, and it was shocking to me the way the people were treating him because he had just left the job as the Brazil national coach, and I was like, I couldn't believe it. But you know, it's a part of their culture.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's just amazing. I fortunately watched a basketball game live in Texas some years ago, and just the process the process of getting inside and out of the venue.
Yeah.
It's something to behold. I kid you not.
For sure.
I mean, like from the time we parked the car
Right.
to walk into the stadium took us less than 10 minutes. I kid you not.
Wow.
San Antonio Spurs against Atlanta Hawks, right? From parking to walking inside of the arena, it took us less than 10 minutes.
Wow.
And when the game was finished, it took us less than 15 minutes because we were way up in the stands.
Right.
Less than 15 minutes to get exit. Right? And then when you jump in the car, everything was just one-way traffic, no bundling. You just you go quick. Less than 20 minutes we were back at the hotel. It was like, wow. You know, so again, going to these things, it's not even just the coaches, you know. You know what I mean? Like people doing sports management, referees, coaches, team managers, etc. All of us need that kind of education and that kind of experience. And there's nothing like being in the space and interacting with people doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you a quick tip. In 2015, when I was head coach of the under 17 team,
Right.
Mr. Bell and myself, Mr. Bell was the team manager, Juicy Bell, Howard Bell, right? So we went to Honduras for the draw
Right.
in December of 2014. And they like a reconnaissance of the venue and the hotels and everything. While I was there, I developed a good interaction with the Americans and the Canadian people who were there. So we walking around, everybody with a notepad, And every minute I'm peeping over on their notepad to see what they're writing. No, seriously,
Yeah.
you know, people van, you know, because they have been through this a lot. So
Yeah.
we want to know what them are
Yeah,
writing.
exactly.
Right.
So, like, I started to say, the American guy just saw me looking on it and I said, hey, see, he just take out one of the sheet out of the folder.
Yeah.
They had a checklist of like about 40 other items.
Yeah.
Right? So like, I kid you not, you know,
Right.
when we go to like all the pitch, the man them have some things where they all like test the type of grass on the pitch, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm not kidding, I'm not kidding you, you know.
Yeah.
Right? When they go into the change room, them pull out tape measure and I measure the size of the change room.
Yep.
Them a draw where the entrance is, count the steps from the change room to the field. I'm like, never before me see something like that.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? to you?
Yes.
So again, it's not just about watching it on TV. It's about getting our people into environments like these that they can see what it is that those ahead of us are doing, that we need to do to make up grounds on. It's not necessarily to do everything because we can copy all 48 things that America trying to do.
No, for sure.
We don't.
Right.
And we don't need to, and we don't have the resources to do some of those things. Right? But at least seeing what they are doing tells us where the gaps are and what we might need to be able to improve ourselves.
Yeah. Plan accordingly.
Yeah, quite a compelling case, you know, folks. You know, this is really, really riveting. If you haven't already, at the end of this video and after the Brazil encounter, rewatch this. Trust me, absolute gold information here from Coach Andrew Edwards and Stefan Hausen, giving insight into everything, quiet insight, and it shows as well the networking that Coach was making mention as well. These are contacts that last a lifetime. Who knows? Being able to meet each other for coaching courses, arrange friendlies in the future. These are important things, and that's why it's something that should be definitely highlighted. There's a few more comments coming in. Jody and Maitland says, facts, Andrew knows the exact issues that are currently facing. Certainly room for improvement from all angles for sure. So let's see what the future holds, and certainly certain areas too, as room for improvement is. And Coach, you know, you spoke as well about your vision and everything, being back on the island. I know being here, you're really enjoying it. You know, in terms from a Jamaican standpoint, your vision for the country, can you see 2026 and beyond? Because sometimes we can be quite myopic. We're only thinking about just the World Cup, but it's a little bit beyond just getting to a World Cup, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
FIFA does a tremendous amount of work with their technical department. Lots of studies partnering with universities in Switzerland, in Portugal, Germany, Brazil, etc. And they have top tier people, you know, Arsene Wenger and others who have been there, done that, leading their technical department. One of the things that they have put out there, which is very important, is that they say that a national team, senior national team, is reflective of the work that would have gone into those players 8 to 10 years prior. So when I started to develop a keenness for technical development, player development, long-term development, was back in 2011 thereabout when I was introduced to the Belgium long-term development plan.
Okay.
Right? That plan was written by Michel Sablon, someone I had the privilege of meeting when I was working in the Turks and Caicos. And when that plan was launched, people like Eden Hazard, Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, they were all between the ages of 10 and 14 years old.
Wow.
Right? When they became the golden generation in 2014, all of them were approaching their prime years, 24, 25, 26.
Correct.
Right? So, we could also look at the example of Germany when they lost Euros 2004, when they were knocked out in the group stages, and they went back and they had a big meeting in NF and they decided, okay, these are things that we're going to have to do to change German football. 10 years later, what happened?
Champions.
World champions. We can go to Spain, same storyline. We can go to France when they built is it
Clairefontaine Academy,
right?
yeah.
Same storyline. So there is no magic one to success. There's a process, and we have to be in it for the long haul. Right? We have to take coach education to the highest level possible. because that is the key. You want to know that all the coaches at Ballers, at Genesis, at Kickstart, at Redemption, at Kingston Football Academy, at ECA, Benders, all of them across the country that doing them little thing, and the clubs, the Arbor Views, Tivoli's, etc., that the coaches working with the 6 and 8 year olds are well trained.
Right.
Yeah, well trained. And I'm going to repeat something that I said many years ago that a lot of people gave me flack for. We need to get to a place where all our coaches, and especially those interacting with youth players, have at minimum a college education. And it's not because I am saying...
I remember when you were bashed for that.
I'm not saying that you must be a bright spark to coach.
Right.
But there's something about having that level of education that improves your insights, improves your understanding, improves your perspectives, the way you process and collect information, all of those things. And of course, there's a lot of non-physical, non-technical or non-tangible things that goes into developing players adequately.
Right.
That the average Joe who is not properly educated will not understand or will not be able to contribute to that environment. All right, so that is my personal take on it, and it's not one that I'm going to back down from. Right, and look at it. When I first got that, is when I started to travel through the JFF and also with my own investments for coach education. Right. So when I was in Germany in particular, all my lecturers were younger than I was. All of them. And they had their UEFA A licenses and so on. And they also had their master's degree in physical education, in sports science. Some of them have all 2 master's degree. Right? So when you check out the profile of all the top coaches in the world, you just pick one, anyone, including in this World Cup. Majority of them have minimum a master's degree. Some of them have all doctoral degrees. You understand what I'm saying to you? So there must be something there that suggests that if you're a student of learning, then becoming a student of football is much more easier. And therefore your process and your progress and your success is going to be stronger.
Yeah, for sure.
All right? So this thing in Jamaica where we think that, okay, you don't have to be educated to be a coach, I don't support it. This thing in Jamaica we talk about, you don't need to be educated to be a good player, I don't support it. Because if I just stick with Arsenal alone, because that is my club, Bukayo Saka, 5 A levels with distinctions. Right? Philippe Senderas and them guys who used to play there.
Yeah.
Whole heap of subjects.
And can speak 5 languages.
5 language, 6 language.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? One Mata who played for Manchester United up to last season. He's a double master's man,
Correct.
Right? Romelu Lukaku speaks 9 languages and him have him degree. All of these players go study all while them play professionally, They do short courses, they do courses in finance, they do courses in this, they do courses in that. Because learning is a constant thing. Constant thing. Now, I have a video on, I don't think I have it on the phone. I have it on my device at home.
Yeah.
It's a short video, about 8 minutes. Manchester City under 14 team. They were playing a game. It was part of a coaching course and I just took it out. So they played a game, and after the game you could see one of the players going to the video analysis room, having a short discussion. The discussion was basically, he was asking about his performance, his numbers, etc.
Right.
The person he was talking to said a few things to him, then said to him, by morning we'll have everything prepared. Right? Then the video skipped to the next morning. Right? He's going through. And I'm looking at that and I'm saying, how many of our players in Jamaica are prepared? And I want to emphasize prepared, because sometimes we demand things that we are not prepared for. Right? But how many of our players are prepared to even have that conversation? To even have that conversation, Right? A simple thing that I like to talk about. When I walk onto Kingston College campus, or JC, or Calabar, or States, or Woolmers, invariably I can sit under a tree or sit in my car and just look around and point out every person who is a track athlete. Easily. Why? Because almost 100% of the time they have a bottle of water walking with. Almost 100% of the time. and they are very schooled on the value of hydration.
Yeah.
Have that conversation with a footballer, less than 1% is going to be able to tell you. And that's probably extreme when I say less than 1%.
Yeah. Right.
But the number, the variance is different. Then we can go to other variables. Look at interviews. How does our athletes interview compute over footballers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You understand?
Very true.
So then look at our track and field.
Mm-hmm.
Who are the people coaching our track and field?
Yeah.
All of them are college graduates.
Yeah.
Every
You
single-
don't have no man who just get up and run one corner or used to run and
Yeah.
come say him a coach track and field. No man who just used to run come say him a
No,
coach
for
track
sure
and
not.
True.
For sure.
Every single track and field coach in this country that I know,
Yeah.
and I would like somebody to show me the one who is not a graduate of a college. Show me one.
Yeah, you're right.
I couldn't do it.
So why
Spot
do
on.
we not want our football coaches to have college education? Or why are we resistant to it?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you both on the side of the coaching aspect and the student aspect. It kind of baffles me how little we place value on education in regards to our students. Because as I said, as at TFC,
Yeah.
I used to see the youth players coming from the academy,
Right.
and they would walk in. They had to check in with the tutor. It wasn't even an option. They had to check in before they trained. And sometimes they'd walk in, and the tutor would be like, "I got your report card today," and they'd be like, "How?"
Yeah.
Because they have an agreement with
With
the
the
school.
school.
So
Yeah.
the TFC's tutor would be getting their report card before their parents. And that was a vital part of them being in the academy. They had to have certain grades. It's not even debatable. If you're not performing in school, you're not playing for the academy.
Yeah.
But yet in Jamaica we don't see the value of that.
Simply put, still some tremendous work to be done on that front. Let's see if there's something that we can take from a team that perhaps 60%, 65% of Jamaicans support, and that is in the eyes of Brazil in particular. Stefan, let me start with you where this is concerned. Yes, we know that there is no Neymar in proceedings right now, perhaps the round of 16, he will be around. But so far, getting through their business quite quietly, your thoughts of what we've seen thus far from their approach?
I mean, I'm not in the 65%, but I did say before the World Cup, if I was predicting a team, if you're putting a gun to my head,
Yeah.
Brazil was my favorite. I just think, overall the system is there, they have the players, and I think they have an idea of how they want to play football. The Neymar injury does concern me. I had this discussion earlier with some friends, and they asked me if I think it's a big blow if he's not playing for the rest of the tournament. And obviously it has to be. He's their best player. He's super important to what they do. But I'm not worried yet. They've, as you said, they've gone about their business as they have. They've won their games and they look comfortable. But I have a little bit more reservation on my pick.
Yeah, the Brazilian team have made quite a number of changes for this game against Cameroon. Same thing we saw with the French and the Portuguese as well. It's Edison that is between the sticks, not Alisson Becker. A change at central defence. Eder Militao comes in at central defence, not at right back, alongside Brima. At left back, it's Alex Telles. And at right back, Dani Alves. Yes, his first appearance of the tournament. Fabinho and Fred just in front of those two. Martinelli, Rodrigo, Anthony, and just behind them, Gabriel Jesus. So a number of changes from the Brazilian standpoint. No Casemiro. We already know Neymar. Paqueta, who you could, in many eyes, many people would say is the glue of this unit. No Rafinha. No Richarlison, who many would say could win the Golden Boot as well. No Thiago Silva. No Alex Sandro. No Danilo. So a number of changes. And coach, when you make wholesale changes to a squad, how much can it disrupt perhaps synergy, chemistry, cohesion? Or this Brazilian team, since they've been together for a while, they should be able to get over the line.
Any number of changes always changes the chemistry of anything. I mean, like if I pour a cup full or a cork full of this into the water, it changes the chemistry of it,
True.
right? So it's gonna change it 100%. But I think Brazil will be fine just the same. This looks to me like 11 changes, a complete change. And the good thing about that is that it could mean that these guys have been practicing together in preparation for this game. So and of course, like when you have the number of players, 26 players, obviously you have squad games or you have a B group and a
Full
A
component
group.
of
Yeah,
game.
so I'm not really worried about that. What this means though is that all of these players now are given the best opportunity possible to put their hands up and say, Coach, I am this guy. that you will need when the knockouts come. You know, I am this guy that will help you to lift the trophy. I am this guy who's going to make a difference for you. So I'm not really worried. Also, if you look at the front part of the Brazilian team here, Gabriel Jesus, Gabriel Martinelli, 2 Arsenal players, Rodrigo, and Anthony. These are all 4 exciting attacking players who would walk into the starting lineup of probably every other single team in the World Cup. So that they are B players for Brazil says a lot about the attacking quality and depth of Brazil. So I'm sure that with these 4 players, the Cameroon defenders will be in for a very, very hard and long night.
Quite a lot. You know, Stefan, you know, your thoughts about the adjustments made here as well. You know, excited to see the likes of Martinelli, who worked very hard at Arsenal just to be part of the 26.
No, super excited. And I think it's even more interesting simply because of the Neymar aspect. You know, he's been out for the group stages, and we don't know if he's going to feature for the rest of the World Cup. So it's an opportunity for 4 guys to go out there and say, I am that guy. In case Neymar isn't there, I am that guy. The good thing about this front 4, most of them can play multiple positions, just like the likely starters. So it is an opportunity for, as I said, for all of them to show that, you know, we might make a little change here. Maybe Vinicius plays in an attacking mid next game, but I can play on the left. It could go anyway, but it's a good opportunity for all of them.
Certainly a good opportunity indeed. Let's show you a graphic as it relates to the point standings, firstly from Group H and also Group G as well, but firstly Group G in particular from the Brazilian standpoint. Coach and Stefan, no team in this World Cup have won 3 games straight so far. So Brazil is the last chance to have a team that could go to 9 points, you know, so far in the group stages. Brazil with 6 points, 2 wins from 2. Switzerland second with 3, Cameroon 1 and Serbia 1. Just for the permutation side of things, Switzerland plays against Serbia, and essentially if Switzerland wins, they're through. But if Serbia goes ahead and defeats Switzerland and Brazil takes care of business, a win or a draw against Cameroon, then it's the Serbians that will progress to the round of 16 of the competition. And just to add to that, if Brazil top the group as expected, then they'll face South Korea in the round of 16 of the competition. And the second place team, whether it's Switzerland, Cameroon, Serbia, they face the Portuguese. They face Portugal. So those are the permutations so that you all are aware of. Coach, just again on the Brazilian side of things, how does you think this squad compare to perhaps previous squads? Did they give you the same encouragement or confidence compared to past tournaments that you've seen them in?
I would say yes. You know, I mean, certainly we're very exciting at the front of the team for sure. I think we have we have firepower that can compete with everybody for sure. The concern probably would be, for example, the age of Gilbert Thiago, right? But having this opportunity to put his legs up and watch and relax is beautiful, right? But also, on the upside of that age is the experience. And I've been watching the Netflix series Captains. I don't know if you have been watching it yourself.
I have, yeah.
And the story behind Thiago Silva's rise to captain of the Brazilian national team, and also the pain of losing out in 2014. Those things I think are coming together very nicely to galvanize him as a person and for him to help galvanize his team towards victory. And I am excited by a comment he made in season 3, I think it was, where he said that all the Brazilian World Cup victories or titles, the trophy has been lifted by a defender. So the fact that he's a defender
love it.
seems like full time again.
Love it.
Yeah, of course. Many would remember the likes of Cafu and Dunga in those past titles.
Yeah. Dunga wasn't an out-and-out defender, but more like a central defensive.
More like a central, right. Okay. And just to take a couple more comments coming in as well, Claudia says, coaches must be trained in order to improve their insight. True. Ava Edmond says, hey, Andrew, how are you doing? Roger Robinson, education no match the master's degree. Coach Claudette says, Brazil is all set, ready to go and show the world they can handle this without Neymar. and we wish them all the best indeed. Coach, as you can imagine, just we have a few more minutes before we can wrap up. A lot of buzz and excitement on the island, surrounding a player part of your unit that has created waves. Did this surprise you, the form that we have seen from Mr. Richards this season in terms of the progression and everything like that? Was it a surprise to you, the form he's showing?
Well, surprise sort of, because I didn't know him before. I've heard a lot about him before. He's a player that is deserving of the buzz around him. He has supreme talent. The people who are handling him outside of Kingston College, I think they are doing a pretty good job with him as well. My concern really is not just for him, but as I was sharing with you off screen earlier, Sportsmax has put together a collage of outstanding performers in schoolboy football for the past decade. And my concern is that none of those players have progressed to an elite level. Right? I put that in quotation mark because we have the likes of Junior Fleming playing in France, and Nicky Daly was in USL, Alex is in the Canadian Premier League, and so on. But on the whole, the talent that they have, and in my humble opinion, they should be at a much higher level, right? And let me be very clear and blunt that I do not believe that schoolboy football should be the ultimate development platform for any player who is serious about their career. So I am not sure what will happen with Whisper, but if I had anything to do with it, he would not be coming back to play schoolboy football next season. You understand me? Quite frankly. I mean, if he comes back, of course, I will be happy to have him, right? As a part of the team. But in terms of where I think he's capable of reaching, I wouldn't want to see him coming back to play. Right? If he's going to stay in Jamaica, at the minimum, he should be playing for a Premier League team. And I think he has the physical capacity, he has everything, technical and everything, to compete at that level. Right? Now, obviously, there are many aspects of his game and his person that needs to be developed. And how that is being taken care of now, I am not all in the know on that. But he's an extremely powerful talent, and I really hope that he will be the one to break that barrier and become an elite player who would have, elite Jamaican player would have played on the schoolboy stage.
Yeah, and Stefan, your reaction to his form as well, this season as well? Happy, would you have taken him at Campion?
Definitely would have taken him at Campion for sure. Maybe he won't come to KC next year. I don't know. But I agree with you. In regards to players who are serious about football as a career, who want to go far in football. I've said for many years, to the annoyance of even to KC fans for saying these things, I don't think schoolboy football is a developmental league. I've sometimes probably harshly called it after school activity, but no, I agree with you. I think he's a top talent. He looks very, very interesting. I'd love to see him against older players. Premier League would be an interesting test for him. Physically, I think he will match up, but there's a lot to his game that needs to be developed, and hopefully he's been handled the right way on and off the field.
All right. Yep, quite a compelling discussion we've had the last 50 minutes or so. Just before we head over and you see the teams walk out, just going to get the final reactions from our panel. Stefan, Serbia, Switzerland, it could go either way in your eyes?
That's going to be a hot game just because of the tension between those two countries. I remember the last World Cup. The Serbia-Switzerland game in TFC was heated when the Swiss won and they did that little thing. But I think it'll be a close one. I'll go for Switzerland just because I like Granit Xhaka. So I'm going to go with that.
And Brazil to take care of business.
I think Brazil will take care of business. I always like to see the smaller teams do well, but Brazil I think they have too much.
Yeah, and coach, Brazil should get enough, as you said as well. Serbia, Switzerland, a compelling one too.
Yeah, well, just before you go on to the Brazil, to the Serbia, Switzerland, Brazil played Cameroon not so long ago in a friendly international prior to the World Cup, and they won the game 1-0, I think.
Correct.
Right, and in World Cup history, Brazil has played Cameroon twice, 1994 and 2014, winning 3-0 and 4-1 respectively. This time around, they are playing Cameroon for the final game or the round. But I think also Cameroon has shown themselves to be the weakest of the African nations at this World Cup so far. And I don't think they will be able to match up with this Brazil team. So I am definitely going for a victory. And of course, only team to get the 9 points. Going all the way.
Yes.
Unbeaten.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're an Arsenal man, so.
Can't contain the excitement for the Gabriel duo, man. Can't contain the excitement, you know.
Yeah.
But Switzerland, Serbia, I am on board with Stefan on that one. I think Serbia lacked some crucial elements in some areas of the pitch.
Right.
They are aged as well,
Correct.
especially in the defensive areas. And I really don't think that they can put together a performance that should cause them to get a victory. That being said, this World Cup has shown us a lot of surprises.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, yesterday I asked in a couple of WhatsApp groups, what were the odds of both Spain and Germany heading out of the World Cup at the same time? I think just bet at it at 10,000 to 1, and in England it was 181 to 1. It never happened, but it could have happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And it got very close at one
very
stage.
close.
Right? So nothing is taken for granted. We have our preferences and our likes, but the football is played on the grass.
Indeed. Coach Andrew Edwards, thank you very much. Stefan Hausen, thank you very much. We're going to head out now and join us again at 4 o'clock for our post-game discussion. Let's see what happens, what other twists or turns lie ahead. Come back at 4 o'clock and we'll have the last 16 down for this tournament, and the round of 16 commences tomorrow. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
876 Dream. Bless up.